Hey everybody, great to have you back here in the fish tank. Exciting news today. It's Minion Masters patch 2.1 that is dropping tomorrow if you're watching this live. We're going to go through all the details today, and there is a lot to go through, so without any further ado, let's dive in. Right, so we're in Mounting Song. This is going to be the second update in the Mountain Song expansion. If it follows how we do before, then we're going to have 3 updates in a season. Right, so Crystal Wilds is what this one's going to be called. It's going to be version 2.1, as I said. Dropping Thursday the 8th of February. New season pass, new cards, new cosmetics, balance changes, a bunch of bug fixes and improvements, and some new tournaments. Now, I encourage everyone to be a member of the Minion Masters Discord because that is the best place to keep up to date with everything that is going on. So the first thing I want to do quickly is go through an update from the devs today. So, Prologue update. Our efforts are 100% towards improving the experience on PC and Xbox. That's good. With 2.1, they've fixed 100 plus bugs and other improvements based on the feedback. So, massive shout out to everyone giving their feedback on what they like, don't like, bug reports, all that cool stuff. So, this is their future after patch 2.1. So, this is just a little bit of a look into the future. So, their next priorities are going to be looking at making sure there are no crashes and disconnects or minimizing them as much as possible. Still getting reports on crashes and disconnects. Again, if you're experiencing those, please talk to a Minion Masters developer in the Discord and explain what is going on with you. Fixing issues with DLCs and purchases, re-enabling chat, improving gameplay logic, VFX and sound effects issues. Good stuff. Improvement to the friends list and lobby systems. Improvements to bots in terms of difficulty and frequency. Adding more user experience and quality of life improvements. Okay, so those are the things that are coming, and just some kind of answers to questions that people already have. Why isn't there a roadmap? We underestimated the amount of fixes and changes we'd have to make when we launched Minion Masters 2.0, so for now we prefer to stay agile and focus on improving the core experience before committing to making new features. However, we'll keep sharing frequent updates about our focuses. How can we trust that Xbox will not be going down again? We know there was problems with Xbox with the certification with Microsoft. They say we had to take Xbox down for an extended period of time because we failed to live up to some of the Xbox requirements. We are now fully compliant with all requirements. We have no reason to believe that something like this will ever happen again. Where's the mobile version? Our focus is primarily on optimizing the Xbox and PC experience. Mobile is still very much in the pipeline though. We can give you an update soon, but not quite yet. Draft faction rules. With 2.0, we introduced new drafting rules where each master has access to different factions. We heard your feedback on this new rule and decided to revert it for patch 2.2. That's good. I like that change. We'll have to see if they ban any specific cards like they did before, or if it's just a complete free-for-all. We'll see how it goes. We think the concept of draft restrictions has merit though, so we might experiment more with this in the future. Cool. Okay, so that's the update on what's coming next, but let's have a look at what is coming now. Next up, we have the new cards. 2 new cards to meet today. They are, as always, going to be available in both the Free Pass and the Season Pass. So the first one is the Resonating Construct. We've seen this guy in the news image for quite some time, so we're pretty familiar with what he looks like. But let's find out what he does. Right, so the Resonating Construct looks very similar to a Crystal Construct, and in fact it has almost the same stats. So we're talking about does 100 damage with a punch, and of course that's very slowly, and it has 800 health, but it's not the same. This Crystal Elf minion costs 3 mana plus 3 mana freeze, so it does cost you 6 mana, but of course with the freeze it means you can spawn it ahead of time. You know, mana freeze is kind of being loaned mana. So slightly different from the Construct. Its attack, whilst it does 100 damage, has a small AoE. So a range of 1.5, which is the same as the Siegebreaker Mark II. So small AoE, but still an AoE nonetheless. So that means it can help it clear sort of small mid-range units. Additionally, it drops a Blast Crystal. We can see on its back it's got a great big Blast Crystal. And also to differentiate it from the regular Construct, it has sort of a pink band around its wrist to indicate its kind of AoE attack, I guess. But what does a Blast Crystal do? If you're familiar with the Resonating Blast Crystal, then you're familiar with the Blast Crystal. Right, so what happens with the Blast Crystal is when he dies, he drops it. If there's no other crystals in play, nothing happens. If there is another crystal in play, then they will both explode for 100 damage. Now, interestingly, that means the Blast Crystal can be either from this unit, the Resonating Construct, or from the spell we already have in the game, the Resonating Blast Crystal. So those two units will probably play pretty well together. So if you're just playing the Resonating Construct, the first time you use it, when he dies, he'll drop his crystal. And then the next time you use it, when that one dies and drops the crystal, both the crystals will explode. But if you had, as I said, the Resonating Blast Crystal spell, you can utilize that to play between them. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays, whether that's a unit that's always played on its own, or if those two cards that I mentioned are always played together. Right, so that's the first one. Next one, we have the Spire Stag. Now, this is, without being too disrespectful to them, this is kind of a Fanriel from Wish. So Crystal Elf minion again, 4 mana, does 30 damage, and has 400 health. But it has a charge, like Fanriel, but not the same. This one, it doesn't have a piercing charge, so it will always stop when it hits something, and it doesn't do true damage. Now, its charge does do 150 damage, only on one unit, so whatever it hits first. So that's a substantial headbutt bit of damage. Additionally, it does a knockback as well. I'm assuming this does full master damage as well. So, interesting little minion. Slightly different to what we've had. So as I said, it's not quite the same as Fanriel. It's kind of a toned down Fanriel. It won't go through loads of units. It'll stop when it hits something. But if that's something valuable, it will do 150 damage, which is, decently powerful. Right, so those are the two new cards. As we can see, this is going to be a Crystal Elf themed expansion. Not my favourite thing, because Crystal Elf decks, Stormbringer decks, are kind of very, very annoying to play against. And when the meta's very strong with those, it's not really a fun time, especially in 2v2s. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe these things will change that up. And of course, we've got balance changes to come as well. Now, as always, we have some new cosmetics. And boy, do we have an awesome skin. New Mordar skin. Mordar, Mancer of the Dead. Now, interestingly, he has skin in this skin. Mordar is normally just bones, but he has skin here. So maybe this is, I don't know. I'd like to find out more about the lore of this skin. Where does it come from? Where does it line up against the other ones? Is this before something happened to him? But yeah, this is an awesome looking skin. Definitely not just a recolor. And I'm very excited to see this in the game and get my hands on it. And of course, when we get skins for a specific master in a battle pass, sometimes that can affect their play rate. Doesn't necessarily mean they're any stronger or weaker, of course. Just means, oh, there's a new skin. Let's get some more play. So it'll be interesting to see if we see any more Mordar. And also we have a new emote. It's beautiful. This, of course, is the cartoonized Spire Stag. And to go along with this, we'll have the new avatars for the two new units as well in the Battle Pass, as always. Right, so those are the new cards. Let's get on to the balance changes. Now, as always, we're going to go through and have a look at things that are buffed, getting stronger, nerfed, getting weaker, rebalanced, changed in all sorts of ways that we can't possibly understand. First up, there is a change to Milloween. Milloween is gaining arcane sparks from not just her own spells, but also from her teammates' spells. So, of course, this is a change only applicable in 2v2s. And the idea of this is trying to make her stronger in 2v2s where she's a little bit weak, without making her any stronger in solos where she's doing okay. So, little change there for Milloween. Right. A buff to the Dragon Whelp. Attack cooldown is going down from a second to 0.9 seconds, so it attacks more quickly, has higher DPS. And, of course, there's many cards that feature a Dragon Whelp, and they will all feature this buff. So we're talking Illusionary Dragon Whelps, Gorik's Gate, Raging Reinforcement, Shadow Whelp, Dragon Ball, Void Altar, even that has a Dragon Whelp in it, Dragon's Nest, Flightless Dragons, Dragon Pack, and anything that I might have forgotten. So quite a lot of buffs there. And of course, we don't see too much Dragon Whelp. Used to a lot when it could take bridges. Since that was changed many moons ago, don't see it too much. Right, next up we have a change to Frozen. I'm not sure how people will feel about this, because the Frozen can be really frustrating when it just kind of locks down the whole field. So the Frozen duration is going up from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. If you remember back in the day when Frozen first came out, I think it was supposed to be 3 seconds or something, but it was bugged to 5 seconds, and it was kind of horrible. But of course, a buff to Frozen buffs many things, not least Tronvir. Tronvir, of course, with his Frost rune, this will affect that. Also going to affect Glen's Brew, since that applies Frozen and then heals. Snap Freeze, as we see here, Frostbearer, Frostberry Bearer, Chief Icebreaker both, Rimmergull's Breath, and Rimmergull theirself. So, a lot of buffs there to Frozen stuff. Ghast. Ghast is one of the least played cards, according to my meta-analysis. Check that out if you want to see what's strong. He is getting a buff where his skeleton summoning range is going up from 6 to 12. So that means if something dies within 12 units of him, instead of 6 units of him, and he's not on cooldown, then he will summon a little skeleton. Is this what he needs to bring him back? It's better. Is it enough? Who knows? Let's find out. Right, next up we have a buff to the Mountain Shaper spell. They kind of killed the spell when they reduced it from full arena width to just half, or just a bridge width. They're trying to make up for it in the damage, but really not seeing it played very much at all. So the damage are going up from 75 to 80 per charge. You can have up to 10 charges, so that's max damage up to 750, up to 800, assuming that it hits all of it. I've seen some knockbacks not be great, but it's not a card that I'm seeing very often, so not something that I have much experience in. Right, next up we have a buff to Netherstep. So remember, it also summons Swarmers when you use it. One Swarmer for each Voidborn card in your hand. This time, they're going to summon the spawners with Rush. That means no summoning sickness for the Swarmers. And I think that's the same as Morgrul's Mark. So the Swarmers won't have to wait that second before they act. They're instantly active and attacking. So small buff there. Not going to change too much, but you know, every little helps for an underperforming card. Spelldancer, so her arcane sparks are being increased. So remember, she has the spheres, which are the ones around her. They're not changing. The sparks are the on-play effect, which if you have mana surge, 6+ mana, then she fires those sparks. They do 50 damage each. We're going up from 4 to 5, so maximum 200 to 250 damage. And crucially, they have death prediction now. So previously, without death prediction, sometimes they would hit something that was already dying from the last spark, and that would just completely waste some of her damage, which was very frustrating because you couldn't necessarily rely on it to kill things that you knew it should ideally kill. But now it should do. And the arcane spark damage going up from 200 to 250 means if you do get all those sparks on a particular unit, you can now kill things that you couldn't kill before. Big things like an ATG drone, or a Harbinger, or an Ardera, something like that. So we could see more Spelldancer action with this change. Right, next up. Wolf Among Sheep. The werewolf is going to gain Rage. So a Rage werewolf is pretty scary. It's a tanky beast, and now it's going to do a lot of damage. There was a proposed change for Once Bitten to give you a Rage werewolf. That doesn't appear to be included here, so that looks like that didn't go through based on the feedback of the PTR. But this change has gone through. Bit of an underplayed card. Probably see more of it now. Right, next up we have the only rebalance in these updates. And as we spoke earlier about the new Resonating Construct with the Resonating Crystal, this Resonating Blast Crystal spell has also been changed a little bit. So previously it would cost you 4 mana, or if it was triggering an existing Resonating Blast Crystal, it would cost you 4 + 1 freeze. Now it's always going to cost the same. It's always going to cost 3 mana plus 2 freeze. So that goes up to 5 mana overall. But there are a couple of differences. Primarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've kind of discussed it with the devs, and I think I understand how this used to work. So previously, it would do either 100 damage and drop the crystal, or if there was an existing crystal, it would explode both of the crystals for 100 damage. So you would either get 100 damage in a crystal or 2 lots of 100 damage. Now the way it works, follow along, now the way it works is it will either do 100 damage and drop the crystal, same as before, or, and this is slightly different, it will do 100 damage, drop a crystal, match that crystal to an existing crystal, and then they will explode. So previously it was 100 plus 100. Now it could be 100 plus 100 plus 100. So you get 100 plus the crystal, so you get two lots of 100 in one area, so you can kill things with shields, and 100 in the other area wherever the crystal is. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if I made it way more confusing than it needed to be. Right, so those are the change to the Resonating Blast Crystal. Only rebalance, so let's have a look at the nerfs. Fergus, if you checked out my meta video, Fergus was everywhere. He is having his Revelry removed. So remember, Revelry is the Stout Heart mechanic where if you place Stout Heart units next to each other or you trigger them with a spell, they have a special Revelry mechanic depending on what particular unit it is. Fergus's previous Revelry was, if he was Revelried, he would immediately stand up from his dizzy 5 seconds and start attacking again. So that's now been removed. So he doesn't have that ability. So he will do his attack and then he will sit down and not do anything for 5 seconds. So that's probably a good change because, you know, he was very difficult to play into. You had to time it right. You had to try to get your DPS quickly in there and kill him before that 5 seconds was up. And then, of course, if they had Revelry, he just stood up and killed you anyway. So probably a good change there for a very, very strong card. Right, next up we have a nerf to the Giant Growth buff. So Giant Growth comes from Growth Burst Shrooms. So this is a Zenshi mechanic. And previously the Giant Growth would give 25% extra health and damage. That's been toned down now, down to only 20% extra health and 20% extra damage. So probably, I mean, definitely a needed nerf. Is it going to be enough? We'll find out. The problem is, it's so easy to get them now when they were given to the Bounceberry Flingers. No, sorry, the Bouncers. The Bounceberry Flingers. Is that what I said? Bounceberry Flingers. Yeah, I said it right. Anyway, just confusing myself. And of course you get 2 of those with the Myriad. So this is going to affect anything that has Growth Burst Shroom on it. So Shroom Puff, Bounceberry Flinger, Jungle Jumble, Shroomer, Shen Shockstick, J-Spark Watchers. And to give you an example, Blue Golem, 750 health, 200 damage. Previously with Giant Growth, that would go up to 938 health, 250 damage. New Giant Growth, only 900 health, so that loses 38 health. And 240 damage, loses 10 damage. So only a little bit of a reduction over there. But the big units will feel it, like the Golem, like the Yahoon, will feel it more, of course. Right, next up we have a nerf to the Impetus Blast. Pom is screaming somewhere. Damage going down from 25 to 15. So that basically means this spell becomes even more about its pushing units around mechanic. Pushing things out of the pocket, pushing things away from you, etc, etc. So what does this change? Well, it can still kill scrats and things, but there's a few things it can't change. Can't kill anymore, which is going to be kind of annoying if you're used to playing it. So Frost Feathers it can't kill. Crossbow Dudes it can't kill. You know, usually we just kill the Crossbow Dudes, save the bridge for your 2 mana. Won't be able to kill a Boomer. That's a big loss. Or a Reboomer. Another big loss. So some scale back there with the Impetus. A very high skill card, not a hugely overplayed card, but it's going to be able to do less than it did before. Lost Legionnaires, copies allowed removed, so that means you can only play 2 copies instead of 3 in 2v2. Very, very strong card. It's a simple card, but when wildcarded, it's very strong because, you know, 3 mana to take both bridges with a fairly tanky unit with a shield, it's very difficult for your opponents to answer that mana efficiently. And if you can just do that over and over again, then it just becomes overwhelming in the long term. So a little bit of a nerf there in 2v2. I'd like to see copies removed completely from that, but you know, we're going in the right direction. Right, next up, Scrap Pack. From my meta video, this was the most played card. Again, very simple card, just gives you a bunch of scrats. But the fact you can spawn it, you get a lot of bodies, you get some DPS, you can take both bridges. That means, and only for 2 mana, that's just why it's so strong. So they're reducing the count down from 5 to 4, so you only get 4 scrats. Little nerf, probably won't change too much, just means it's just a little bit less efficient. Spear throwers, their attack cooldown is going up from 1.5 to 1.7, so they attack slower, have lower DPS, and of course this change will also affect the tantrum throwers. Next up we have a nerf to the Zeppelin bomber. That's been very, it's been everywhere really in both game modes. So damage reduced from 70 down to 60. That doesn't change too much, but when you use the Scrat Swarm, you get 2 of them, and we're looking at, if we think about the double bombs, so instead of doing 140 damage, they're doing 120 damage. That double barrage now kills a lot less in that one double bomb than it would before. So for example, it will no longer kill War Dancers, Stun Lancers, Fire Imp, Wizard Path, Cannon Roller, Bazooka Scrat, Net Blaster, and Stixie, to give you an idea. So as it's carpet bombing through, less value. So small change, but could change a lot. Right, so those are the balance changes. Now, as mentioned at the start, they fixed over 100 bugs, stroke improvements based on people's feedback. Let's find out some of those. Right, so this patch is more about game fixes than gameplay fixes. So whilst we do have some gameplay fixes, most of the fixes are outside of the match. So as we saw earlier, the next sort of step will be fixing gameplay issues. Now let's go through this. This is a lot, so we'll try to get through these as quickly as possible.
Right, gameplay fixes. Fix Grasping Thorns, needing the killing blow to summon the skeletons. Fix Frostbearer's Frost Aura disappearing shortly after played. Fix Chisma Boomstick failing to properly fear himself. That's a good one. Fix card buff icons properly having an outline. Fix pings being mirrored when used by players in the second team. I would really like them to fix pings with the streamer UI. It just doesn't work at all, but that's not fixed yet. Fix various issues with Mordar's Tombstone. That's probably the perk 3 Tombstone being pointed the wrong way, for example. Right, stability. Fix the crash that could occur when leaving the replay menu. Fix at least some cases of players seeing a mayhem related already claimed. Fix the crash that could occur when changing languages to simplify Chinese. Fix middle mouse button being bound to multiple different buttons in some ways. Implemented a safety that hopefully prevents the arena from being flooded with corpses of dead units that never disappear. Fixed several issues when claiming rewards would return reward already claimed. Usability. Made selecting cards to be played in matches more tolerant of mouse movement, therefore vastly improving the usability of players using the mouse to play cards. That's a massive change. Or fix or improvement. Disconnected from the server screen will now offer both quit and reconnect buttons on PC. Adjusted the playfield area indicated blue outline to be more accurate, so if you were looking at the center line, it was kind of off the ground, which made it look not in the middle. Hopefully that'll be improved now. Made several improvements to the rewards claim system. Added claim all functionality to several additional reward claim flows. Claim all functionality will now show which excess cards were converted to shards. Refunds will now give better information about what was refunded. Fixed leaderboard and player info screens not showing wildcards. Fixed the size of the player widget hitbox on leaderboards to not overlap cards. Improved how loading of player info is handled. Fixed multiple instances of bad feedback when requested to join guilds. Changed how you access the emote wheel. So now, instead of having to press Y and then click, you just press Y. This is on PC, of course. And releasing Y while hovering an emote will send it. That should be much nicer to use. Made several improvements to the post-match player overview screen. Fixed several instances of Contender and Grandmaster ranks being displayed incorrectly. Fixed no sound being played to indicate match found. Made several changes to the tutorial and meta tutorial to hopefully make the new player experience better. Rearranged when features unlocked to stagger the menu features better and be less overwhelming. Changed the decks played by the tutorial masters to be more interesting. Removed several steps from the on-rails meta tutorial. Fixed a couple of mistakes or ambiguities in the instructions. Fixed several ways the flow could break, causing the client to enter an unrecoverable state. Made several improvements to the replay menu, added clear win-loss label, added game mode label, bots no longer sharp as invalid, more clearly differentiated match time and match duration indicators, fixed Xbox having multiple cursors when both Xbox and controller were plugged in, fixed the bug reporting interface not showing categories in the drop-down matches, this should make it so you can now report issues during matches again, fixed deck builder filter system defaulting the glory slider to 1.2 after a scene load, nice, fixed deck building menu, crafting shortcut hotkey, added player rank indicators to the pre-match versus screen, cleaned up the debug info string in the bottom right corner of the screen, adjusted the size of spectating buttons to be more appropriately scaled for PC, disabled dragging cards in adventure UI, made pre-made matchmaking correctly stop when the pre-made lobby is closed, added a delete button account to the settings menu. Don't try to use this new feature unless you're serious about getting your account removed. Don't use it. Visuals. Made several tweaks to the in-match UI to improve user experience and polish. Straightened the end of health bars to avoid tearing. Visible tearing on the slanted line of the full health bar. Added more visual distinct backgrounds to health bars to make it more clear how much relative health has been lost. Moved XP indicators to the other side of perk and scaled it out to be more visible. Made tweaks to the mana bar to make it more immediately readable. Scaled up multiple UI elements slightly in solo mode. Readjusted the size of text in mouse over tool tips to not have as noticeable a difference between descriptions and stat text sizes. Adjusted the match result screen to be less awkwardly spaced in modes where ladder changes information isn't relevant. Fixed camera angles in the player overview section of the match result screen. Turned gore back up. Fixed guild banners occasionally showing up as white squares, made several tweaks to the audio settings getting closer to levels of punchiness we had in MM1, made several adjustments to camera angles in menus to make camera movement during frequent switching between views less jarring, fixed several instances of longer strings overlapping each other in localized languages, fixed visual cue for not enough mana on cards when the progressive grayscale was inverted, Fix various issues with idle animations and multiple masters. Fix Falcon's attack animation overshooting its target. Fix various issues with items not showing up correctly in the shop. Fix the missing frame in the season reset view. Made adjustments to several arenas' visuals. Twitch the bridge visuals in the snow wall arena to make them stand out more. Fix some missing visual effects in the showdown arena. Fix some missing elements in the Altar of Almighty Ape arena. I think that might be in the middle. Fix the colour of fog effect in the Winter Holiday arena to not have trees in the background become a vivid pink. Fixed the VFX on Blood Imps to more properly represent their ability. Remove support for several languages. Japanese, Korean, Spanish, Polish, and Turkish. Whew! Okay, a lot of changes there, and a lot of good changes. Hopefully that should make everyone's experience much better.
Right, now on to tournaments. So as we know, we recently had a Knights Duel tournament, so the game is in a much better state. And will be even better now 2.1 is out. Right, so our Knights Duel number 32 1v1 will be on Saturday the 25th of February. Links as always in the description. $400 prize pool for that. My Fishbowl Brawl events will be back. 1v1 and 2v2 play overtime events start the 15th of February. Registration is open and there's going to be a 21,000 Ruby prize pool. Excitingly, we should now be able to have cross-platform tournaments. So that means we should have Xbox and PC players playing together. So regardless of what platform on, you should be able to join these events and be a part of them. Assuming that all of the updates land on both of the platforms at the same time, but we're going to assume that's going to be right. So please, PC or Xbox players, come join the events. Be great to have you there. And we have some new tournaments. Our good friend Destroy, who we see in a lot of the Knights Duel events, is playing. He's got a new tournament with some fun rules. It's called the rule for this one is called the Drink Beer, Play Music and Dance. And what that means is all of your decks must use Glen's Brew, Troubadour, and War Dancers. Just to clarify, these are not for these tournaments on screen. This is for Destroy's upcoming event. Again, look in the description for that particular tournament. Right, so that is it. Hopefully this didn't last too long. We had a lot to cover. Just to reiterate, Thursday the 8th of February, that is when the patch is dropping. So if you're watching this live with the premiere, thanks for joining me. That'll be tomorrow. We've got the new season pass, new cards, the Resonating Construct and the Spire Stag. We've got the new cosmetics, the new awesome looking Mordar skin. A bunch of balance changes. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of the changes? Are things being nerfed, buffed, rebalanced appropriately? And of course, we had that massive list of bug fixes and improvements and those new tournaments. So, lot of stuff happening. The game is getting into a better state than it has been for a while. And of course, as we discussed earlier with regards to the devs look to the future, lots more improvements coming. And they did reiterate that PC and Xbox is their focus at the moment. So don't forget. Oh, one last thing. If you're an Xbox player, you're getting 500 rubies as a sort of an apology or compensation for the issues that have been on the Xbox program so far. I know you've been offline a lot. It's been frustrating for you, I'm sure. But hopefully you're back online now. And as the devs mentioned, as we looked earlier, they have passed all of the Microsoft certification, which means they should be able to roll out these updates far more efficiently and quicker than they have with sort of over the last few months. So that's good stuff. Right. I look forward to seeing you, as always, on the battlefield tomorrow on Patch Day. If you're new to the Fish Tank, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe with this video if you're enjoying the content and you don't want to miss out. Can we get 1 like on this video? I challenge you. Right, I'm Bad as a Fish, and as always, I'm awkwardly waving.